Hello everyone, Chris Martenson of Peak Prosperity. It is Friday, October 6, 2017. The word of the day, betrayal. Now, this is something that I've been writing about and I've been talking about. I had this wonderful interview with a relationship counselor. He's trained in something called the Gottman method, which is very famous for having run through a lot of the predictive elements as to why one couple will thrive and be together for many, many years, and why other couples won't and will fall apart, and the relationship will fall apart. And they talk about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, which are ways of interrelating with each other that are predictive of whether you're going to be successful or unsuccessful in remaining together. And among those are things like contempt and dismissiveness and things like that. But when I was talking with him, he said that one of the hardest things for a couple to get past is something called betrayal. This means you've invested your trust in somebody and they've betrayed that trust. They could be small. We think betrayal, sometimes we think big things like infidelity or killing somebody, but they could be smaller too, like having an agreement, an understanding with somebody about spending. And they hide a purchase from you. That's a betrayal. And the way you get past a betrayal is that the person who does the betraying has to atone for that, has to legitimately be apologetic and sorry for that, and be willing to answer any of the questions that the person they betrayed might have. But we're seeing these acts of betrayal all across our culture at this point in time, even across the world. But to speak to the United States, we've betrayed everything from an entire generation. That's what the Federal Reserve has done by taking savings, interest savings away from the savers, those interest income, so that parents and grandparents can't invest in the next generation, paying for things like school and starting businesses, by making student loans a necessity of getting a job in life, and then somehow making the jobs not pay all that much and making student loans the only non-dischargeable form of debt in the country. Or the Federal Reserve deciding we need house prices to go back up because this is great, because when the house prices are high, people feel wealthier, they spend more, but pay no mention or mind to the idea that people who are trying to start households can't afford those houses anymore. The median house price in San Francisco is $1.3 million. The median income for a household is $80,000. It's an astonishing number. Nobody can afford houses out there on the median income. But that's the situation we have. And that's actually, when you look at it, it's not monetary policy. It's an act of betrayal. So I've written a big two-parter about that, not just the forms of betrayal that we have. We're betraying the future, or large betrayals like in Europe, where in Catalonia, people assembled peacefully to vote. The EU stands for democracy. They've bombed countries that weren't democratic enough or displaying overt aggression towards their people, as in the case of Libya. But when it comes to Catalonia, which wants to break away from the larger region of Spain or country of Spain, what did the EU say? They said, well, sometimes violence is okay for governments, to pursue. It's a betrayal of everything they supposedly stand for. So if somebody says one thing and does another, and these are too far apart, that's a form of betrayal. So you need to understand these, and here's why. As we live with these, if we don't process them, if we don't insulate ourselves from them, they come and work their ways into our lives, and we find ourselves unhappy, stressed out, depressed, all these things that we don't want to be. So first, you have to understand what they are. Second, you have to know how to insulate yourself from them. Third, you have to know what kinds of things you can do in order to minimize the impact those things have on your life, so that you can be more connected, more alive in your daily life, so that these things don't slow you down or inhibit you taking the right actions, or any actions at all, depending on what we're talking about. So this November, Becca Martenson and myself, Chris Martenson, we're going to be having a seminar at Roe, and you can follow the link to that here. We're going to be advertising that more at our site, which is specifically around this part of life, which is how do we develop the tools that we need personally within our lives so that we can manage this increasingly chaotic, difficult world. And by the way, these sorts of things that we're seeing with the Brexit vote, with Trump being elected, with the Catalonia breakaway, with even maybe the shooting in Las Vegas, you need to understand these don't come out of a vacuum. These are arising because of the times in which we live. So how are you going to be? How are you going to navigate those times? That's an increasingly important question. It speaks to emotional capital, one of the 8 forms of capital, but maybe the most important one that we talk about. So with that, come on by, check out this article, and join the discussion that we're talking about what it means to be surrounded by betrayals and how we can live our own lives with integrity, meaning, and purpose. As well, consider maybe coming to the seminar that's at Rowe, or we're going to be talking investment and other ideas like that down at the investment conference in New Orleans, October 25th through the 28th. Adam and I having a special breakaway session there for people who want to talk specifically about the data of the world we live in, and also another breakout session for people who want to talk about those 8 forms of capital. With that, I'm Chris Martenson. This has been your weekly update. I will see you next week.